Welcome aboard, my name is Vic and today I'm gonna show you how you can start building your computer step by step. I have all the components in here in order to start, so stay tuned. Do you know what's so awesome besides building computers?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Well, that is pressing the like button. Let's begin.
Alright, let's start with the case. We're gonna start by removing the front panel and back panel by removing the screws on the back. This is the NZXT H510 Elite case, and it comes with two RGB fans on the front. We have to remove this plate in order to install the radiator water cooler. On the back of the case, we're gonna take out these little bots where we have all the screws, zip ties necessary in order to manage all the cables in the future. And then we're gonna remove the zip ties that come already with the wires. And we're gonna just move all the cables around in order to move them to the front later on. We're gonna go back to the radiator plate. We're gonna remove this fence in order to put the radiator, and then we're gonna attach the fence back again. Now we're gonna start with the motherboard. This is a MSI B450 Tomahawk. In order to install the CPU, we're gonna match the little triangle on the back of the CPU with the triangle on the motherboard. Just remember to lift the latch from the motherboard, put in the CPU and align it with the triangle on the motherboard, and then close the latch. For the RAM, we're gonna go with the Corsair Vengeance 16 gigs. Just make sure that you set up the RAM in dual channel. Just read the instructions from the manufacturer for the best configuration. For the water cooler, we have a Kraken X63. We're gonna take it out of the box. And here we have the radiator and the fans that come with the water cooler. Here we have the wires that go from the water cooler pump into the motherboard and instructions for the water cooler. Make sure that you read these instructions because we have an AM4 motherboard and they actually require a different faceplate that come with the water cooler. In this case, we're gonna be using the AM4 screws. In order to install them, you gotta remove the plastic that comes on the socket of the motherboard. You will see 4 screws in there, you can always remove them and then just keep the back plate on the back, and then we're gonna screw it in the water cooler screws for the AM4 in place. Now we're gonna prepare the screws for the radiator. So make sure you put the screw inside of the washer. Then we're gonna go back to the case to install the I/O shield. Just make sure that you align it on the back and then press it. Then we're gonna install the motherboard. We have to tilt it a little bit until it folds down in place and aligns with the holes from the case. Then we're gonna put all the screws to the motherboard. Then we're gonna install the radiator water cooler. In order to install it, we have to mount it on this plate. I will say this is the most difficult part. You gotta align the fans, the radiator plate, and the radiator itself. Let's put the screw in, not too tight, and then at the end we're gonna tighten them up. Now we're gonna put back the radiator plate with the fan and the radiator. Then we're gonna install the water cooler pump. For this water cooler, you can rotate the screen. You can rotate it clockwise depending on how you want it to look. Just make sure that you put the screws a little bit loose by hand, and then at the end you can tighten them up with a screwdriver. Then we're gonna go on the back of the case. In order to install the graphics card later on, we gotta remove these panels here, or little panels I would say. For the graphics card, we're gonna go with the EVGA GeForce RTX 2070 Super. We're gonna install it on the PCI lane, and make sure that you put the screws back. Then we're gonna go on the back of the case and fish the wires from the case to the motherboard. We actually are gonna trace the one for the USB, front panel, and the audio. Just make sure that you read the little tags inside of the motherboard, and you can actually connect those connectors in there. Then we're gonna install the two hard drives. We have a solid state drive and a mechanical drive that we're gonna be putting on the back of the case. We're gonna connect the SATA connector and then trace it to the motherboard. Then we're gonna go with a 650 watt power supply from Thermaltake. Just make sure that the power supply fan is facing down, and then put the screws on the back. Then we're gonna connect the SATA power cable from the power supply to the fan hub. And connect the power cable to the hard drives. Now we're gonna fish the cables for the motherboard, CPU, and the graphics card. You will see the name of the PCIe connector, and that's the one for the graphics card. And now it's the time to organize the cables. The way that I organize the cables is by grouping them and using zip ties in order to make them under control. And now look at this masterpiece. Let's turn it on just to make sure that it turns on properly. And it did turn on properly. Let's go, guys.
Well, that's the video for today, and I hope you learned something new. Remember to subscribe and like this video, that way more people can find this channel. See you next time.